thank you for organizing this. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you everyone for coming. Special shout out also to Alana's parents for making it all the way here. I was joking earlier that my parents would sooner make up a trip to Australia than come see me speak anywhere. So very special to have you here. Quick show of hands, who's heard of Sir Kensington's before? Okay, great. A lot of people have not, so this won't be repetitive for at least half the audience. I helped to start a company called Sir Kensington's with this guy. This is my co-founder named Scott. He is usually the media person because he has the mustache, so it makes it a little bit more visually interesting, but you have to deal with me today, sorry. We met when we were in college together, and we had this idea that food was changing in America, that everywhere we looked in the grocery store, we saw an abundance of choice. So natural, organic, healthy, unhealthy, low sugar, high sugar, except for one singular place in the grocery store which looked like this, and had looked like this. Just save the, okay, yeah, boo. No, we don't do that. The problem with this was not the brand, it was the lack of choice. That was our feeling, that this one category hadn't changed in 50 years, while so many other categories had really moved forward. And our perspective was we were living in a time where every category in the grocery store was getting upended in a way that we thought was really different. So from our perspective, what was really different about the way the food was changing, this was 2008-ish, was that the brands on the left were stalwarts that we all grew up with. And by the way, I think we all grew up with this brand too. I did. The brands on the right were an interesting change in that they were made with better ingredients, but they did not sacrifice on taste. So for a long time, healthier food meant it didn't taste as good. And all of these brands represent really, I think, a new perspective on food, which is that you could really have your cake and eat it too. You could have better ingredients and you wouldn't have to sacrifice on flavor. And so we had this perspective that maybe we can do something interesting with ketchup. So what do you do when you want to make ketchup? You host a ketchup tasting party, right? Raise your hand if you've hosted a ketchup tasting party before. Anyone? This is what it looks like when you do it. So we Googled a bunch of ketchup recipes online. We found a few that we thought we could make, and we hosted this party in our off-campus apartment in our senior year of college. And we actually didn't think anyone would show up because the invitation said, join us for a ketchup tasting party out of nowhere. And people didn't think that A, there would be anything there when they got there, and B, for the people who did show up, they could not believe there was actually ketchup to taste. But what they showed up to were a variety of ketchups, each labeled with a random number. This one was number 18. And people were handed rating cards, and we asked them to tell us, what do you think? Because at this point in our esteemed culinary careers, Scott and I had made, at best, SpaghettiOs from a can, which is usually how SpaghettiOs come. But the act of making ketchup is actually quite complicated. It's like cooking a sauce and reducing it, and we didn't really know what we were doing. So our feeling was, let's see if we could have other people tell us where we're messing up or if we're doing something worth doing. So over the course of 2 or 3 of these parties, we refined the flavors, we refined the products, and we produced, labeled, jarred, sold about 200 jars, all by hand, and graduated. And none of those jars were made in a food-safe facility. They were all made in this apartment. We didn't have aprons, so we used cut-up trash bags. We didn't have gloves, so we used the yellow Rubbermaid gloves. And actually, we didn't have a funnel to fill the jars. So does anyone want to guess what we used to fill the jars with 200-degree ketchup? Very close. We used a cut-up Gatorade bottle because it perfectly fit the jars. I feel like there's a lesson in there somewhere, but no one got sick, so we moved on, forgot about it for a while. I went to New York, my co-founder Scott went to Tokyo, and we actually kept working on the idea for about 2 years off and on, from 2008 to 2010. And in 2010, we had gotten it to a point where we had written a business plan, we had found a co-packer, we had done about 1.5 years of R&D, and we launched. And the company we launched didn't at the time have a pithy mission. Now we do, which I'll share with you. Our mission is to bring integrity and charm to ordinary and overlooked food. And the thing that I really want to talk about tonight is why this mission took us 3 years too long to develop, and why we're now very happy to have it, but why it was so important. And so to begin with, what is a mission even good for? And we've actually heard almost every speaker, I think every speaker, touch on mission or purpose or really passion. Those are all, I think, related to the same thing here. I've written a mission is how we and the rest of the world can understand our purpose. And so a mission is good for helping to put into context the products that we make, the way that we communicate those products, how we recruit and train the team, and the way we conduct business. So that's all very a little bit obscure until you put it into context, and I'll put it into context in a little bit. But this is the stuff that took us a very long time to learn. And going even a step further into this, we also developed company values, which I'm really proud to share. You'll notice these were all illustrated on plates, which was done by our incredibly talented designer, and really brought them to life. And I'm going to talk about how we developed these, but I'll just read these for now. Our first value is our secret ingredient is people. These are actually out of order. So ignore the order of the plates here. Our secret ingredient is people. We act with honor even when no one is looking. We make condiments with character, and we think long term. Those are our 4 company values. Can anyone read this really funny joke that's on the plate here on we make condiments with character? I really put myself into my work, it says. It's a ketchup bottle. It's a brand of Sir Kensington's humor. So what are values good for, and how do you apply them? Our opinion was really not using your values in making decisions is the equivalent of not having values. So if you don't put them into action, there's really no point in having them. So we use them to shape our goals and mission. We use them as a guideline for making decisions of all sizes. We use them to communicate a position on a divisive issue, which actually happens all the time on the team. Our team is filled with a lot of hot-headed people. So having an objective guideline to refer back to and a rubric for behavior is really helpful. So I'm sort of breezing through a lot of this because we're going to come back to it later. But that was our mission. Those were our values. This is why I thought it was important. And now I'll introduce what we actually make. So for those of you who don't know what we make condiments. Thank you to the chefs who made the incredible dinner using the ketchup, I believe, right, in the Korean barbecue sauce. We make ketchup, we make mustard, we make mayonnaise, we make vegan mayo. Everything we make is natural and non-GMO. But there's a reason I didn't start with what we make. And what I think is our greatest asset is not actually what we make, it's who makes it. So this is our team from a while ago, actually, but this is our team. This was coincidentally from a Hawaiian-themed party that we threw, so they could all work at Dat Dog tomorrow, I think. Yeah, we're ready to go. Yeah. One thing that I've learned the hard way our team is about 30 people now, and just as a point of reference, this photo was taken about a year and a half ago, and we were about 29 people then, so we're about the same size, but we actually have rotated through, or we have 11 new people compared to when this photo was taken. And it's been a hard journey of figuring out what defines our culture and what makes people successful in the culture. And I couldn't agree more with Bill's statements earlier about paving the road, and what was it? Pave the road, smooth the path. Great. And I couldn't agree more with that. But you have to find the right people to walk the road with you. And it took us a while to figure that out. And sometimes it was very painful. And sometimes they left, even when they were the right people, because we didn't quite understand what keeps good people around. I synthesized it in this way, which is continuous challenge. And Bill said all of these in much more eloquent words, but continuous challenge, professional development, and a connection to mission and purpose. I'm not going to talk about the first two, but I do want to talk about the third, which was really what we were getting at earlier. some of you may have heard of this book, Start With Why. It was really inspirational to us. I'm going to try and present the core concept without infringing on that person's copyright and trademark. It's universally useful, so bear with me. He also didn't come up with the concept, so he just wrote the book. So what we've learned to do is not start with defining who we are by what we make. So we don't talk about, oh, we are a condiment company and we make ketchup. What we always now start with is our purpose. So a purpose is your company's team and shared mission, the long-term goal. For us, that is to bring integrity and charm to ordinary and overlooked food. That's our mission that I shared earlier. That's the very core of who we are. That's what defines all of us. That's what it gets us excited about coming to work every day. So from purpose, you have the path. So that's how do you achieve your purpose, right? How do you actually go out and tackle that every day? What's the rubric or guideline that you've defined to get you to your purpose? That's your path. Those are the values that I shared, which I won't reread. But those are the focus on people, the acting with honor, thinking long term. Those are your company values. And finally, the product. Purpose, path, product. If you start with product, I think you leave a lot on the table, and I don't think you do justice to what you could be achieving and who you could be recruiting and who you could be retaining. And what we make are condiments, but what drives us and what keeps those great people here at our company is more than just what we make. It's how we do it and why we do it. And the problem that we ran into was in 2013, 14-ish, Scott and I recognized that we knew all of this great stuff about ourselves and our company and who we were and what made us special, but there was a big disconnect between what we had in our heads, meaning just me and Scott, and what the team knew and what the external world knew. We took for granted that you can't just assume people know what you stand for. You really have to communicate it. And so we had to start somewhere in writing this. You won't believe this, but since this photo, Scott has actually become a brand rep for 3M, makers of Post-its. So I think it started, he's become a super fan for Post-its. He basically works for Post-its now, but we used a bunch of Post-it notes, and actually backing up, before we get into this, speaking about this disconnect between internal and external, we've all had a lot of liquid courage. Would anyone like to volunteer? I'm not going to put anyone on the spot, but would anyone like to volunteer if it's your company's purpose that you'd be proud to share with the group? Or if you work at a company, what you believe the company's purpose to be? Yeah? You want to share?
To get people high.
To get people high. Great. Purpose and path in one, right? Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes.
To dress up a better salad.
To dress up a better salad. Okay, great. Anyone else would like to share? Yeah?
Increase the amount of local produce and make it more affordable and convenient.
Great. Do you want to say increase amount of...
Increase our availability to local produce and make it more convenient and affordable.
Great. That's an excellent purpose. Anyone else? So these are all great purposes, and I think that, or missions, and I think, is there another one? Where? Oh, Bill? Yeah.
Unique people, unique food, uniquely South Louisiana.
I love that. Sounds like you've been doing some wordsmithing on that one. Yeah. Why am I not surprised? Do you want to come share a stage? Yeah. These are all great, and we weren't able, if you would put me on the spot 4 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to do that. And that's what we wanted to get to. And for those of you who want that and don't have it, or for those of you wondering, where do you even start? It's actually not that hard. We started with Post-its. You don't have to start with Post-its, but we felt like being analog was a great way to organize our thoughts. And what we started to put down on paper was what we had in our head. So all of the things that we thought made the company special, that we were proud of, that we thought made us unique, that's what we started to write down. And we sort of coalesced that. And then we wondered, how do we actually get the team involved? This is like a really advanced question. Does anyone know what the IKEA effect is? No. Okay, great. So the IKEA effect, named for this store from Sweden, the IKEA effect, I'm going to try and make it very, very simple. it describes the positive effect that including your either your customers or your team, whatever the particular case is, in the creation of something has on their adoption of whatever that final product is. So on this, I know it's like super late for a 2x2 grid, so forgive me. I didn't think it'd be 10 o'clock when I was presenting this. The vertical axis is level of contribution, so how involved someone was, and the horizontal axis is importance or value of the task. How important is it to them, to you, whatever. And most of us end up actually on the bottom right here, the red circle, which is something super important to us, and then we just bring it to people who are totally disconnected from it. So I make this, that light, and then I go bring it to someone and say, here's my light, please buy it. Why should they care? The top right is really where we all want to live, basically in everything, which is how do you actually get someone to contribute to what you end up wanting them to adopt, whether it's a product to buy, whether it's a mission statement to live by, whether it's a value system that you want them to act by. And so using the IKEA effect, we basically did a series of surveys with the team, a lot of discussions, and we co-wrote that mission that you saw, those values. It was all co-written with the team. And that really got them involved, and it actually got them believing it. So now we have it, we have the mission, we have the values, what do we do with it? So we did a few things. It became a central part of our training of all new team members, where we used to start with, here's what we make, has whole tomatoes, has free-range eggs, it has this, has that. We actually leave that to the very last day of a week-long training now, and we start with who are we and why are we here? So we start with that with everyone. This center photo is it's like, if you guys remember like school science fairs. This was for a sales presentation to a school, so we thought that'd be cute. And the very center of it is our mission, not what we make and not why it's better. It's our mission and who we are. And on the right, it actually serves as a great hook for press if you're looking for press for your business, because writing just about ketchup or mayo or mustard, as hard as this might be to believe, is not that interesting to the press. But if it can be about something broader, then there's a little bit more of a hook there. Beyond the internal, we also tried to turn it external as much as possible. So we've done a few things on Facebook and on Instagram, and we wrote a long mission post on Medium. And for those of you who haven't used Medium for this kind of expression of your brand or of your company, I highly recommend it, because it's like Blogger 2.0. It's like a real living, breathing, long form way of expressing who you are and what you're proud of in a way that isn't ephemeral like social media. So we've tried to bring our mission and our brand to life in that way. And I think we've had a small bit of success in communicating that brand now, both internally through these things and externally through these things. And where that really coalesces in a physical object is this thing, which I have, this thing, which is a metal card, which has our mission on one side and our values on the other. And what we created this for, it's a totem, basically. It's a brand totem. It's a physical manifestation of everything that we think is important. And we give this to every team member that joins the company. We give this to every vendor that we really trust and we've developed a relationship with. We give this to our key customers to help them remember who they're working with and why we're proud to be who we are. And we basically use this as sort of like a key card and say, well, now you're part of the club, and now you know who you're dealing with, and now we can sort of see how our missions and values are aligned. I brought a bunch of these. I did not bring enough for everyone, and Kenny insisted that I throw these out like frisbees to people, and I insisted that it was too dangerous, so I've saved all of your eyes. But I will leave the remainder of these. I have about 30 of them. I'm going to put them up here, so whoever comes up here first after the Mercedes-Benz grand giveaway, we'll get them. But in the meantime, I want to give them first to the people who had the courage to share their purposes out loud. You guys deserve an extra something special. So here's yours. Here's yours. You're welcome. Bill, I'm just going to throw yours. Yeah. If you could pass those back. Yeah, thank you. Did I miss anyone? Yeah, I gave yours. Yeah. Did I miss anyone? Okay. So moving on. So this is just one example, and this is bringing it back to the point. The point is, what we found, what we lacked in the first 3 years of business was not a good product. I'm sure everyone here, for those of you interested in making food, whether it's in a kitchen or whether it's a physical product like ours, you're all very capable of making something delicious. I have no doubt about that. And it's not that that's not important, but our feeling was, and our learning was, that to really connect with people in an authentic way, it takes more than that. And so this is all about how do you define your own purpose, your path, and your product in a way that sings together and create an ecosystem that works together. But beyond marketing yourself, why is it important, right? I think, so this is an even older team photo, but what we've seen over the last few years since we've had it is many people come to us and they apply for jobs saying, I heard me or Scott or someone else talking about our mission. And as crazy as that might be to hear, people actually apply based on the connection to purpose. And food, we're very lucky to be in food because food is better than it's ever been. There's an incredible array of employers to choose from if you're looking to do something exciting in food. And so thinking from the perspective of an employer, being able to attract and retain the best people, whether they have small mustaches or big mustaches, is very important. So that's one. The second is decisions are going to come up that are going to be divisive. I show this photo because our mayonnaise is our best-selling product, and we frequently have debates about, do we want to, we use certified humane free-range eggs, which are insanely expensive. They're 3 times more expensive than cage-free eggs, but we're very proud to do it. There's frequently a debate about, do we want to do a line that only uses cage-free so it could be a little bit more economical, as we were talking about earlier? Or do we want to not use sunflower oil and instead use expeller pressed canola oil? What's the difference? Why is one better? Who cares? And having a set of values that provide you a rubric means that you don't just have to be emotional about these things. Not that emotions aren't important, but as a team, you can really think objectively about what are the things that we signed our names next to in terms of the rubric for making the decision, so that we can have that debate in the context of something we've all already agreed on. So product decisions are one example. People decisions are going to come up too, right? The first value of ours, people are our secret ingredient, it really cuts both ways. It means that we go above and beyond to create a nurturing environment for our team members, but it also means if someone's not performing, they're holding back the rest of the team, and that's not fair to the rest of the team, right? And so having those values to look at and say, well, this is why we have to make a really tough decision is easier than having to make those decisions on the fly and then just sort of trying to sleep at night not knowing if it was the right answer or not. And then lastly, as it relates to our most recent partnership, it can be a really interesting way to make big decisions, company decisions. And in our case, as we were thinking about, do we want to join forces with like the definition of big food, right? It's a $150 billion global company. Is that actually where we want the company to go? And if we didn't have the mission to look at, and if we didn't have the values, in addition to everything else and the people, we wouldn't have been able to say to the Unilever team, this is who we are, this is what we care about, do you give a shit, right? Are you bought into these things? Forget about ketchup, you guys can make ketchup. Forget about mayo, you already make mayo, right? If you want to make organic mayo, if you want to buy our same eggs, you can do that. Why are you interested in us? And can you look me in the eye and say, you're interested in this? And it provided a shared language that allowed us to feel them out. And the good news is, because we had written these things down and we had these totems and we had these things inscribed in the culture, it's early days, so find me in 2 years and ask me then, but it feels like we're more likely to retain the specialness of who we are and the drive of what we're trying to do, because these things were thought about ahead of time and because they were cemented in the culture before anyone could mess it up. And because our mission and because our values say, like, we don't make shitty products, they can't turn our products into something shitty. So it served as a really good litmus test for, are these people for real or not? And we felt really good about where we landed, and we made the decision using these things that for a while just felt like marketing tools, and then they just felt like, tools for making internal decisions. But then when something really big came up, it became extra clear, this is how not only could I decide, do I want to sell, do I want to not, do I want to raise money, who from? Because when you raise money, you're marrying someone, right? And oftentimes you have to do that before you've gone to date them. So having these things written down and going through the exercise with your team is saying, what are those unifying feelings that we all have? It gets you all on the same page and gives you a way to make that assessment in a more objective way. So bring it back to the beginning. We are very proud of what we make. And again, for all of you who are in food or want to be in food, you should be proud of what you make. This is not about forgetting about the product, but if it's just product, so what, right? Anyone could make this. Can anyone tell me who this is? On the left. Who's on the left? Mario. Who's on the right? Super Mario. What's in the middle? Your product, right? So this flower is this ketchup bottle, right? And this is, I wish I could claim credit for this graphic. It's not my graphic, but I'm going to pretend like it is for the next 1 minute. The flower here is what you're selling, right? This is our flower. And if all you sell is your product, and you don't have the IKEA effect, and you're not thinking about that, you're not going to break through. Because the person you're talking to, Mario, doesn't want a flower. The person on the left wants to be Super Mario, right? Does anyone want to read what it says on the right, underneath Super Mario? Awesome person who can do rad shit. That's what everyone wants to be, right? What you're selling is the transformation of Mario to Super Mario. And you can do that with the product, sure. What I'm trying to communicate tonight is you can do it better with these things. You can do it better by saying, I don't just have a cool ketchup or really amazing whatever, hot dogs. The way you create happiness and you transform people's lives is by having a deeper connection with them beyond just the thing that tastes good or the thing that makes them feel good about the sustainability of the ingredients. Going all the way back, starting with the deeper connection is what really, I think, makes people feel like Super Mario. And it took us a very long time to learn that, and it's way easier said than done. But starting by writing these things down is a good first step to do that. So my recommendation, my challenge to you, in addition to having coffee, driving away in your new Mercedes-Benz, is draft these alone, with your team, with your partner, with your co-founder, whoever. Start writing them down and keep refining them, because you'll refine them for months, maybe years, but you won't regret starting now. So I'll leave you with the one and only James Brown, hardest working man in show business after Kenny. And I just want to leave with the note that it would be really, really easy to write all this stuff and to fake it, right? It'd be really easy to come up with a purpose that seems convenient or like maybe sort of matches what you care about, but you've looked at a lot of other brands and all of a sudden that stuff's gotten in your head and you don't really know who you are. It's really important to be authentic to who you are. And we actually, we had a lot of good debate at Sir Kensington's about our mission, because originally our mission, I'll share this with you because you won't find it written down anywhere. Our original mission was to move food forward. And we actually, I got a lot of pushback from a few members of the team saying, that's not actually who we are, right? Maybe in the long term, if we have enough scale, we can fundamentally move the food system forward, but that's an artificially lofty mission. That's not really what we're doing, right? Fundamentally, what we're doing is more specific, it's more narrow than that, and that doesn't mean we don't care about moving food forward, but it didn't ring true. And if it doesn't ring true to you, it's definitely not going to ring true to the people you're talking to. And so being specific, being authentic is important because people will sniff through bullshit in an instant. And in food in particular, people really, really, really want to know that they're connecting with authenticity. And they can sniff it out if it's not authentic very quickly. So I'll leave you with that. I wish we had some like James Brown music to play out. I didn't think ahead, but thank you all for your time. And these are here.